Welcome back, peeps, to Purrfect.dev, where we give you cats the freshest dose of dev snacks.
Now with your amazing hosts, Alex Patterson and Brittney Postma. This episode is sponsored by Builder.io. Visually build on your tech stack.
I always want to come in before the Builder.io spot and be like, yes!
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
It's going to be an interesting day.
Brandon is here from Appwrite, and yes. I honestly need your feedback. Is me saying that we're awesome hosts too much?
No. I don't have any evidence to say otherwise. So.
I mean, there was a hesitation there. I just want to make sure.
You have to think about it for a second. You don't want to step on people's toes, right? I'm on your stream, so I want to be cordial.
Nice.
Awesome. So yeah, we have Brandon Roberts here. He is going to talk to us all about open sourcing your database with Appwrite. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. Do you want to give us like the peeps a little background on yourself and how you got involved with Appwrite?
Yeah, sure. I'll give my speech pitch and then we can kind of roll from there. But yeah, Brandon Roberts. I have been, I guess most people probably know me from the Angular community. I've been in the Angular ecosystem for a while. I had to throw out there Brandon T. Roberts on Twitter. You can follow me there. I talk about sports. I talk about a bunch of stuff there. I block people sometimes because it's fun.
Is that why I haven't seen anything from you in a while?
Hey, I'm sorry we had to find out this way, but that's just kind of how
you must
I
be
roll
a
sometimes.
Suns fan. I don't know.
We already had a little conversation that he's made some comments about my favorite football team. So
yes, the team that will not be named. No, but it's interesting because I am in Alabama. I will name them, but I am not in Alabama. I'm not in Alabama.
As long as you're not that other team.
No, not them either. So,
okay,
so yeah,
good.
I'm completely on the outside of the fence.
We've just lost half our crowd one right now.
But yes, like I said, in Alabama, working at Appwrite, developer advocate at Appwrite, and I maintain some open source projects. Mainly one is NGRX, which is a set of libraries for building reactive Angular applications. So. I like open source, and that's mostly where I live in these days. So yeah.
Yeah, that's where I first knew you from was NGRX. It's an amazing set of tools, if that's the right way to say it. But it's an amazing product to use within the Angular ecosystem. So,
Zach DeRose that we had on that was talking something about.
Yes.
In that space.
Yep, Zach DeRose. He works at Narwhal. I used to be at Narwhal, but now I'm at Appwrite. But yeah, Zach DeRose is a fellow. State management enthusiast, I would call it.
Exactly.
But Zach is great. And so, yeah, I'm sure you had a fun time. I have to go back and watch that one, that episode to see.
It's a pretty fun one. I think we have some nicknames for him on that one with the RX talk. So
I got excited when he said Narwhal because I have the swag of like the old Narwhal squeaky toy, but I don't have it behind me right now. So
yeah, I still have my squeaky narwhals. The kids love to squeeze those, and then I have to quickly steal them away because they're loud.
Which is why it's not on my desk anymore.
Yep, that's it.
Don't let the dogs get that one, right? Cool. So yeah, jumping completely switching gears back towards the Appwrite side of things. You guys have just gone through Series A and then just more recently gone through Series B. You've got some money now. Like Appwrite is starting to move. And one thing I want to talk about with that is this new OSS fund you guys just announced. Can you break down for the audience kind of what you're trying to accomplish with the OSS fund?
Yeah. I'll talk about the Series A real quick, and then we can get into the good parts about the OSS fund. But yeah, the Series A is just an investment to keep doing what the vision for Appwrite is, and a lot of that is tied to open source, and help build out Appwrite, build out the community, and make it a good thing. Which we'll get into what Appwrite is more in general. But yeah, the Series A definitely helps out a lot with that. Money is always good, especially in open source. And then that kind of leads into the OSS fund. Our founder and CEO, Eldad, he started in open source. He has built up Appwrite and got it off the ground to get it to where it is today. And he did that through building it in open source. And he got to a point where he's always valued open source, and I think that's something that's very valuable to the company. And he always wanted to be able to be in a position to give back to open source, because he got to a point with Appwrite where he was building with it, trying to make it something that more people could use, and he wanted that to be his job, to be able to work on something open source. But of course, he needed money to do that, so he went down the path of trying to get funding for Appwrite, and of course was successful in doing that. So, and wanted to kind of pay that forward back to the other, OSS maintainers that are doing that same thing also, which a lot of them are doing that in their free time and spare time. So I wanted to continue that forward and support them in that way. So yeah, that's a lot of what the OSS Fund is. We made a big announcement about it yesterday, kind of tied into the May the 4th, and so that was fun. But yeah, I definitely recommend people to check that. If you are an open source maintainer, definitely check that out and apply. And we have some money to give out. It's $50,000 to give out initially to a bunch of open source developers. So
I forgot my cues here. So
there you go.
I
This
really
is the
love
series,
that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very thankless job maintaining open source. So I really love when companies are contributing back and helping them.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so definitely check out the blog post. And like I said, open source maintainers is free for anyone to apply. And yeah, we're starting out with that, and hopefully we can do big things with that and kind of grow it further in the future.
That's super exciting. A big question, Appwrite, it's kind of compared to Firebase. I think if you're probably floating around the front end side of things, can you break down maybe what that means, or what Appwrite means to a front end developer?
Yes. So the tagline, if you haven't seen Appwrite before, maybe a couple of times, is it's an open source backend server that provides core APIs for building applications. So what that means for front end developers is that a lot of those things that you would normally have to do if you're on the front end side that you may or may not care about too much, it kind of takes care of some of those things, a lot of those things actually. So a lot of those things you want from building out applications, like authentication, being able to use a database, maybe store some files, manage users, those sort of things that to pretty much build up any type of application, whether it be a web app or a mobile app. Like I said, in this case, it'd be a front end app, but it kind of packages up those common things that you would need, and kind of packages them up in a secure way so that you can access them. And it kind of wraps that all up in services using Docker. So it's Docker images underneath, Docker services that are all kind of wrapped up into Appwrite itself. So like from the front end side, it's something that you can connect to like manage a lot of those things that you can get, so you can get started up quickly. That's a big sell of it.
Does Appwrite host that Docker container for you, or do you as a front end developer need to worry about hosting that?
Yeah, that is part of it. Today it does it's all self-hosted, so it's all open source, all self-hosted. You can take it and run it on your own infrastructure, and you do have to do that today. Where if you have Docker on your machine, or you have somewhere where that can run Docker, then you can deploy it there, and that can be your hosted space. But yes, at least for now, you do have the ability to run it on your own hardware. And obviously you got the nice little segue in there for the Appwrite Cloud. But we do have something coming that anybody can, sign up. You can still get all the benefits of Appwrite, whether you want to move from the self-hosted version, and we have a cloud version coming out soon that has everything that the open source version does. It's just hosted, and so that you don't have to worry about like maintaining servers or maintain that sort of infrastructure. So if you really don't, if you really don't care about doing that part of it, then you can sign up for the cloud, Appwrite Cloud coming soon, and then it'll take care of that part for you too.
Very nice.
Yeah. So like I said, if front end app, if you're regardless of what your stack is, I know I see the Svelte hat there in the background. If you're using Svelte, you can.
I'm a little
Svelte
overkill
t-shirt.
today.
I don't have my Angular or t-shirt, and I got the Appwrite hoodie on, of course. But
I went Cinco de Mayo fun.
Okay,
I don't know.
there you go. I don't have I forgot my margarita jacket or something. That probably would have been a fun little twist. But
worn my 5 o'clock somewhere shirt. That would have been a good one today.
Mm-hmm. But yes, like I said, web, front end, mobile. We have SDKs that kind of integrate with pretty much any ecosystem that you normally build with. Like I mentioned, Svelte. We have a web SDK for that. If it's React, Angular, you can use that across the board there.
Thank you for being on the Svelte train.
I got to get more involved with Svelte. I have gotten more exposure to Svelte at Appwrite because I know we have some people on our team that like Svelte a lot. So we're definitely digging more into that too.
Awesome.
I did want to bring up because I think for front end developers, it can be somewhat scary, like dealing with these things because they're used to something like Firebase or AWS that's hosted. I wanted to show that Appwrite does currently have on DigitalOcean a one-click install, and it's super easy to set up. Do you want to just talk about how that kind of works a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And this is, as you mentioned, we have a couple of ways. Like I said, you can do the self-hosted version if you wanted to do that. One of those ways is on DigitalOcean, and this is maintained by the Appwrite team, so you don't have to worry about that going away for some reason. But so if you go to the DigitalOcean marketplace, you can click on the create Appwrite droplet there, that button there. Yep. And if you have, DigitalOcean set up, it'll go through and you can actually just make a few selections there and actually deploy Appwrite directly from DigitalOcean. And it'll be a production. You'll have to use if you go to the first one there and the $10 option there, I believe it's 1 CPU and 2 gigs of RAM there. If you choose that one, then that gives you the option that's all the minimum requirements you need to get it deployed. And from there, you can choose choose your data center where you want it to live and then also your SSH keys if you want to add those. And once you have all that selected, you don't have to choose any backup options or anything like that up front. And if you scroll down, you'll have the name there for the droplet, and then you can click the create droplet button down there at the bottom, and that'll give you an instance of Appwrite just ready to go. It takes a couple of minutes to get started up there, but gives you all that, like I said, everything that Appwrite has out of the box already configured for you.
So when we talk about like Docker, for those who don't know, you can, and maybe you'll show this in the demo too, but with Docker Desktop, it kind of shows all the different services under the hood. My initial question on it is, how scalable does that become? Like when you're running, so like on a droplet, you constrain hardware wise a little bit on what you pick. Whereas if you went with like Firebase or something else that's hosted, they scale really well. Can you talk a minute, like how does that work with Appwrite?
Yeah, so like I said, the Docker services, Appwrite itself you could think of it as like the collection of the services that go along with Docker, but each one of those is like an individual microservice. So it's kind of like a combination of those two things, to where if you wanted to separate the database part of it and have that hosted somewhere else where you can that scales up automatically, you can kind of separate the different pieces, the underlying pieces of Appwrite themselves, or like, let's say, microservices. So it's easier for you to take those separate pieces and kind of scale them up. Like I said, you're still having to manage that part of it, but there are things that you can do to set that up with, like Docker Swarm, and those kind of Docker Swarm is I think the biggest thing out there, or one that we recommend out there in our tutorial for that. But yeah, like I said, each one of them is separate, and so you are constrained by, like, you have that kind of configuration that you have to manage there, but you're not constrained in that that's all you can do, because they all have to depend on each other. It's like a single unit.
Yeah. Very cool. So I'm going to give you a minute to share your screen and whatnot, and we're going to go to a commercial break.
All right.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Builder.io, visually building the web. Builder.io has one of the most powerful visual editors in the industry. Unlike other tools, Builder actually produces the code for you. You don't have to completely switch out your framework either, just use one of the handy SDKs that are available. There's no limits to what you can build. Instead of limiting your marketing team, start to optimize and let them do the work. This will allow your web developers to get back to the hard work that it takes for other components, allowing your team to do A/B testing and personalization. Stop worrying about bugs in production. Just use the site as it is, then you can analyze and start converting all of your customers with Builder's built-in heat maps. Stop limiting your growth with developers' long lead times. Start building, optimizing, analyzing, and start growing faster. Don't take my word for it. You can sign up for free today and start building the web visually with Builder.io.
Welcome back, everyone. So Brandon's going to give us a little demo of Appwrite, and for those of you out there, if you want to play along, I have a feeling you'll be able to.
Yes. So what we have here is, I'll bring up the app here. We have a nice demo here that I will drop, or I will send a link over. So you can drop that in the chat there. But we can kind of take a walk through kind of like the general setup. If you were starting from scratch,
I see Netlify.
Netlify, yes. If you were starting from scratch, you would click the Get Started button, and that would bring you to the give you the command to run and install Appwrite. Like I said, if you have Docker set up on your machine already, you can do that. But that would get you up and running on your local instance or server. So to go past that part, I've already set up, I have an instance running here already of Appwrite running, and that goes along with the demo app that I shared there. But in general, this would be the console or the place where you could have projects to use with Appwrite. If I wanted to create a new project, I could do that by going here and creating project and doing that. But like I said, we have the codingcat chat appropriately named here for the demo here. But this is just the dashboard of where you can set up the project itself. And if we go through here, we have different platforms. As I mentioned, we have different SDKs about what Appwrite supports, whether it be a web app, Flutter app, or Apple or Android app. You can add different platforms for that. You can see I have the platform here for the demo app. And what that does is, I know if you've done web development before, you've probably been bitten by cores once or twice, but
Never.
Never. Okay. I don't know if I believe you on that one, but yes, cores is a thing, and I don't like it, but
no one does. Apparently the security people do.
But yes, security people love cores. But yes, if you want to add a new web app here, you can add one in here. I'll add one for local hosts, and that's just if you're doing development on local hosts. But this will, once you add this, it'll allow your application to connect to Appwrite without those pesky cores errors. So next, like I said, one of the things is the database under Appwrite. So a database, our database has the notion of collections. And if you want to add a collection, you can think of a collection as similar to a table. So if I wanted to add a collection, we can call this to-dos, of course, and create that. So you create a collection, and this is just a place where you can store items there for whatever, however you ever want to structure this. So each collection has an ID that you use to connect to it in your app. And you also have permissions here that you can set up for the collection itself. And this is kind of where the security part, or secure, as we mentioned before, cores is one part of it. but you also have different levels of permission that you can provide to a collection, whether that be for a specific user, or you can have authentication available or have access available for anyone. If I wanted to say role member, it says that any authenticated user can access this data, or role member here, or any authenticated user can write to this data. So you have that option there at the collection level itself, or even at the document level, you can have that specific to each document. So for a database, each database has what we call attributes. And an attribute is like a column in a table. So if I wanted to create one here for content and say that it's required, we can create that. And so you have these.
Maybe a good or a bad time to ask, but when you say like a table, do you want to talk a second about like the database that sits underneath?
Yeah, sure. So Appwrite underneath uses MariaDB as its underlying database solution. And as we mentioned before about Appwrite being flexible in that way, we have support for MongoDB and PostgreSDB coming soon also. So those are like actively in the works, and you can actually see the progress on those on our GitHub repos, so that you have the option to choose if you're more comfortable with those, or you're used to those underlying databases, and you can kind of use those as your one of choice also.
And unlike something like Firebase, Firestore, which is like document-based database, Maria is actually a relational database, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, relational database, and then we provide kind of this layer on top of that for like easy management, so you don't have to create your own tables and things like that underneath. But you have access, like I said, we talked. Of course, the title of the show is open source in your database, but you have access to all those underlying pieces there too. So
you could run all the SQL commands that you want, basically.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, if you wanted to dig in underneath the hood and see where all the connections are and everything there, that definitely is available there. Yep, MariaDB, open source, MySQL. So
MySQL, yep.
I
feel like everybody's built on like a different, like Postgres, or I don't know enough about databases to understand the differences, but yeah, I was going to ask which one.
See, I think as a front-end developer, all you need to know is it relational or isn't it? And that's it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's definitely if we were to simplify it, that's definitely a good way to put it. I think people can.
Outside of that,
now I'm about to make dad jokes. People can relate to that. No. Yeah, I see. You see what I did there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I mentioned, for the demo here, I've created a collection called chat messages, and I have the 3 attributes here for string, one for room, one for message, and one for the name. And those are just different ones that you can add. You can have different string or number attributes, or even URLs or emails, just depending on what type of data that you want to store in Appwrite itself. And so if we look at indexes, I've also created a room index here this is for performance reasons, so that if you want to query data by a specific key, then you can add an index for that and choose one of the different attributes to key off of.
Hey, Brandon, could you do like just one zoom in just a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, perfect. I think that'll be a lot better.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
So that's the main side of the database. Of course, there are settings you can manage there. You can view activity for practically anything that you do for the collection, and this goes for the other areas also. We mentioned storage, and I'll come back to chat messages in a minute. But we mentioned storage where you can manage files. If you wanted to create a bucket of files where you just wanted to store those here, we have support for just like using the local Docker container, or even if you wanted to connect to S3 or even DigitalOcean Spaces. We talked about that one earlier there for that. So there's also users, where I see we already have some people logging into the chat demo app here. So you can have users and you can have teams, which are just a collection of users. So it gives you that kind of flexibility of management there for managing that data for, like I said, users and teams, and even settings for those particular things. So just looking at the settings here, if I go under users, and this is one thing, an additional thing that Appwrite provides is a lot of different, we talked about authentication, which providing a lot of different ways to authenticate with Appwrite. So we have anonymous authentication, or if you want to use email and password, or even using an OAuth 2 provider. Let's say we wanted to connect to connect your application to any number of these ones like Slack or Discord, Twitch, you name it. Most of the ones are probably already here. And we also have a couple of new ones coming up in the next release, namely Auth0 and Okta is actually going to be supported in an upcoming release. So, and you can hook those into here and use those as your authentication providers if you don't want to use Appwrite's built-in mechanisms there.
That's really cool.
So how easy is it with those to connect like environment variables and things to connect the services together?
Yeah, so each one of the, if I go back to here under settings, we have the configuration is provided so that you can enter that particular thing, like your app ID. Those environment variables here will be securely kept inside of here. So once you enter those, it'll take care of that handoff for you as far as entering that information here.
That is a really nice like interface for that.
Yeah,
I like it.
And then we also provide that like that callback that you need for the OAuth 2 that you have to enter on Twitch or wherever to do that there. We also have functions. So cloud functions and functions in Appwrite you can use those as cloud functions. We support a number of different runtimes. Let's say you wanted to, and these are kind of triggered on Appwrite events. So if you wanted to say every time somebody enters an item in the database, then I want to do something with that particular, I want to do something else with that. Let's say you have like registration, and every time I add a new user, I want to go send them an email. You can use a cloud function for that. And you can write these applications in many different languages. Here I just have one written in Node.js, and I've deployed it here. And you can actually run those functions from the console itself. So if I just click execute now, and the good thing part about it is that you can run all of these anything that you can do on the Appwrite with the Appwrite SDKs, you can do in the console also. So this one's just a quick one that says a function that says our developer's awesome, and of course we say true for that. But like I said, that one's written in Node.js, and I can show that here where the function is received, where it brings in, or the function it would be called on a particular event that you want to listen to.
So you said in the console, is there like a CLI for it too?
Yes, there is. Appwrite also comes with a CLI that you can install to give you all the same things that you could do in here through the command line. So you can log into your Appwrite instance, you can create functions, you can deploy you can update your database structure or schema, if you will, from here. So the Appwrite CLI gives you that direct connection there. Like if you want to automate some of these things there also.
So when I think like cloud functions, I'm thinking of like Lambdas and other hosted services like that. Mm-hmm. What does a cloud function actually mean within a Docker service?
Well, in the function in Appwrite, we're basically spinning up a Docker container. We're spinning it up dynamically. So if you run a cloud function, we're actually spinning up a service and running your cloud function inside of there, so that it still works the same way. It's deployed, and you can use cloud functions to kind of extend the functionality of Appwrite itself for things that aren't built in. But yeah, what we're doing underneath is spinning up Docker. We're, like I said, taking advantage of that and hooking into Docker containers and running those as runtimes in there. Like I said, it depends on, and we also manage the kind of like the dependencies for those functions also. So the Docker container will install any necessary dependencies and run those functions based on the events that you choose there.
Cool. Yeah, that's very interesting how like that whole resource comes in mind, because like dealing with AWS lambdas and things like that, you can do so many more things behind the scenes. Like when it triggers, you actually like trigger off functions and things like that. I'll be really curious to dig into that. I've only like set up Appwrite and kind of like accessed it. Going to that next step is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it seems like that is a lot where people kind of extend it to, like I said, do a lot more things than maybe what Appwrite provides out of the box. And like I said, I've been like hacking around with it some to do some we've had a hackathon here recently with Dev2, and I've been trying to see if I could use it for my like stream overlay to hook into chat messages and things. So
that's cool.
Pushing up a cloud function and let it listen to the chat messages and kind of feed those into Appwrite seemed like a fun idea. So that's kind of what I've been using it for.
I feel like the developer experience of it has been thought out pretty well, because you've thought about, like, even though you have to self-host, you've thought about having that DigitalOcean droplet provided and ways that you can help developers like enhance the tool. Like it.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the main like tenets of Appwrite, is trying to make these things available and simple in a way so that you don't have to spend a whole lot of time worrying about building out APIs, which of course, if you want to hand roll those things, you can, but it's meant that you can add it into your existing structure if you want to, without much friction, of course, if that's what the aim is. So yeah, just keep going through. If we also have, like I said, there are webhooks, and if you want to connect to Appwrite through another server, you can create your own API keys and add those also. And you can provide an API key with permissions of what it should have access to, should or shouldn't have access to, and use that there also. So for I set up the project and I set up the messages here, and I have the Appwrite chat here application that I've set up, and I'll choose codingcat, and we'll click start chatting. And if we go back to the database, I had chat messages in here. I don't have any documents in here yet. And one thing I'll mention here is Appwrite also has a real-time API, so that let's say you connect to the chat and I connect to the chat, and we start dropping messages in here.
What is the room? Yeah, the room doesn't populate, so I'm trying to get in the right room. Oh, yeah, it is.
I put coding cat. I dropped that in there also. Coding cat is the
Nice.
message here. So we got the real time aspect going on here. So notice and even if I reload this page, we have the messages that we posted for the chat here, and then we can go into the database and see those messages in here. There we had coding. Yeah, see, we got two different coding cat ones in here, and this is you broke the demo already. Now just kidding, but yeah, we have coding cat. The room is just what I use to add the messages there. But like I said, as we see, we had the real time aspect of it, to where we can have the authentication there. And I'm just using the anonymous authentication here. But like I said, if you wanted to connect this to Twitch or any of the other OAuth providers, you could do that. And I can walk through some of the code for the app also, because like I said, we want things to be set up for simplicity. So we have Appwrite SDKs for using it on the web, and you can use that to create a new Appwrite instance and say, this is the endpoint to my, I'll probably need to make that a little bigger. That's probably better there. So you can say you want to connect to this endpoint and the project name that you want to give it there, and then you can use it use that API in your application itself. I'm using it here to create an anonymous session, and of course we got nice TypeScript integration there. So For the people who love TypeScript, you can use it there. Even if you don't have TypeScript, you'll still be able to take advantage of it in that way. So I can create an anonymous session here through the account API in Appwrite. So that lets me log in. And then for the chat, I can show the part where we're querying the documents. So we have APIs to list documents from the database here. And we're using this query syntax to where I can query by room, or if you wanted to set up those other things where I talked about indexes before, those are available there also. And this is a React application. So React, pick your web framework of choice, and you can use that. Like I said, I use Angular a lot, and I'm still learning some other ones. We'll have a Svelte example here soon, I imagine. But yeah, so the real-time part of it is also here, where you can subscribe to different events from Appwrite, and this could be any event. This could be collections, database updates, and a lot of whatever event that Appwrite has, you can basically listen to those in real time. In this case, I'm just using it to say whenever there's a new document in the chat collection, then I want to add that in real time to my chat screen. And you, like I said, can also create documents using our API here, where I'm just saying this is the collection, and I'm using kind of a special syntax here and this is something that I've seen people talk about in like comparison to like Firebase also, to where you have more control over the unique ID that you generate for an individual record. So this would be the document ID, and then this object here is the collection of, or the object of data that we want to enter. And these just match up with the properties that I added to the collection, the name, room, and message there.
I have to say, I really like that, how you do that in this Firebase. You have to like actually create entry, and then it creates the ID, and then you have to update everything. That's really cool.
Yep. So you have flexibility there. If I wanted to make this, a custom message based on a timestamp or something, I could do that too. But this is just, like I said, a unique one that we call it a preserved keyword that you can use for that.
Is there any data, like in most or a lot of SQL databases, you can set up where it actually tracks like the create entries and things like that? Is that
yes, those are in the console here, where it tracks all the entries here for the database itself. So you definitely get that activity there tracked over time as far as records being updated.
Love that.
If that's what you mean.
That's a great feature.
Yep. And then we have the dashboard, of course, that shows you activity about messages over time, and messages over time for their particular database or users or collections or functions or a database and other parts of it. So you, even though you can see how much usage you have at any given time, like how much load is your Appwrite instance under, especially if you're like hooking into the real-time connections and everything like that. So
that's cool.
You specifically talked about when you were saying with hosting that you use it on DigitalOcean and you needed that $10 droplet. What is it with that? And is there any way to try Appwrite for free right now? Why would you need that bigger droplet, I guess, is the question I was asking.
Oh, okay. You need the bigger droplet just for the system requirements for Appwrite itself, because it's running those services. So that's just why you need the droplet with 1 gigabyte or 1 CPU and 2 gigabytes of RAM. So that's just like minimum that you need. I know there have been some people have tried running it on. There have been other versions of Appwrite where it's like extremely stripped down that I think you can run on like Heroku or other places where maybe you have like free credits or something like that. We had looked at trying to, or I guess are looking at maybe even deploying it to something like AWS or something like that, to where you could host it there or wherever your like platform of choice. I think render.com is another place we were looking at, because they give you a generous free tier that you could deploy to. So we're definitely looking for at other integrations to where you could even like I said, if somebody gives you enough free credits or like Azure or something like that, you could deploy it there and not have to pay anything, and you still got all that functionality there.
Was there anything else on the? I was kind of curious about storage. If we want to jump in that side too. I know you probably don't have like storage set up for the demo, but
yeah, yeah. So storage works similar to a collection. If I wanted to go in and create a bucket, is what we call it, and a bucket for files, and this gives you a place where you can add files or store them in any place and add and access them through the Appwrite SDK. And one thing I will mention here is that even if you don't use the SDKs, the REST APIs that Appwrite provides are there underneath the SDK, so that if you wanted to tap into those directly, and all that's kind of laid out in our documentation also, to make those API calls to access everything there. So if you wanted to build something on top of that, there's that too. So under files, you have control over, if this is enabled, what's the largest file size you can build here, whether it's files are encrypted or not, and kind of restrict the extensions there. And then if we go into like the bucket level, it's similar to collection, where we had the collection level and the document level. So we have bucket level and file level permissions for the particular files there. So I add roll member here. And of course, you can always configure these to however you need them. So I'll click update there, and I'll click add file. Let's see if I can choose a file here. Appwrite AMA. I know I had one for. I'll choose the cat here because that's a nice fun one.
I have no idea why you would pick that.
You can upload files, and we get your preview there. And like I said, you have access to all those particular things, that file ID, which can be unique or auto-generated if you were using it through the web, and have those permissions that you can set up for that particular file there. So that's at a high level. You can, like I said, have different storage buckets of how you want to organize your files, and then access those through everything else in Appwrite, whether it be a function or you want to kind of tie this into a database where you have, files tied to particular items, maybe for blog posts or something like that. You could, as a lightweight, you could use it as a lightweight CMS in that way. So yeah, definitely.
I didn't expect to be back on camera.
She's like, I have to go find some files to put in here.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, is that like a blob storage that goes directly to the file system when you're not using something like Google Cloud Storage?
Yes, the storage out of the box is just the volume inside the local system in the Docker container. So it has a volume there that it stores those files. But like I said, you can connect it, configure it to use S3 or S3 DigitalOcean Spaces, or even I think we have some new storage options there coming also that are besides the ones that we provide out of the box. So in just to add on that, the underlying pieces is that you can have an adapter that handles that like communication for you if you wanted to like configure your own. And the same thing like kind of with the OAuth providers, although most of those have been contributed through open source contributions. So you have some flexibility there if you wanted to like use a different type of service there.
Nice. Really cool. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat because I can't remember the name of it. There's this other thing called Supabase floating around out there. Can you tell me or like do some comparison between Supabase and Appwrite? And what was the other one? I can never remember it.
Yeah, there's a few ones out there. Supabase, because the most common one is Firebase. I think InHost is another one out there, kind of like these backend as a service solutions. I feel
like truly non like hosted Google ones. So like Supabase, I guess.
Yeah, so there are some similarities between Supabase and Appwrite. I would say both of them are open source. I believe Supabase Supabase is built on top of Postgres. Appwrite is built on top of MariaDB. So there's those comparisons there. The Appwrite is self-hosted out of the box, where Supabase is, they kind of lean you more towards the cloud product first, and then self-hosted is an option there. So there are a lot of similarities there, but yeah, I think for a lot of similarities as far as what you get out of the box there, but as far as like cloud functions and things like that. But yeah, Appwrite on our side, we're like just focused on simplicity and focus on like simplicity, security, those things that are of course valuable to any developer that wants to kind of not delegate some of those responsibilities to when they're building out things, but as far as compared to Supabase. So yeah, they're similar in some ways, but yeah, I think we have just maybe slightly different approaches on how the services are built out and how we provide that value to you developers. So
nice. Well said how you put that. Cool. Maybe it wasn't too much of a hot seat. You probably got that question before.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there any other outstanding questions, Brittney, Brandon, that you guys are thinking of about Appwrite that I haven't asked?
No, I'd be interested in, of course, the people who are watching live and maybe people who are watching this after. We're always looking for feedback. So if anybody thinks of anything, of course, afterwards, feel free to ping me on Twitter or wherever you find me in Discord, and to see what's good and what could be better. So definitely looking for that.
That's a great call out. I'm sharing your screen, not mine. There we go. On Appwrite's homepage, if you go to community, you can jump right into the I thought Discord was on there. Am I wrong?
That's probably down at the bottom of the
join Discord. There we go.
There you go.
So you can
There's
jump
a little
in there.
Discord icon down under on the footer.
Oh yeah.
So you can jump in there. I find it amazingly active, for such a product that hasn't been around a long time, and great community, great group of people out there. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, please do join the Discord. We'd love to see you there. You'll see many people from the Appwrite team hanging out in there regularly. So come join in.
I just have to point this out. I just saw Barack Obama.
Oh yes. That's Bradley, one of the members on the team also. Oh, it always trips me up when I see that.
I was like, well, wait a minute.
Picture there. We got Barack Obama in the Discord? No, we don't. But yes.
That's awesome. Okay, I think it's time for our Purrfect Picks. Brandon, you are in the seat first.
Okay. My pick is going to be, I'm a sports fan, so I'll just throw that out there. We talked about Alabama earlier, but I'm watching the NBA playoffs. He's still throwing the thumbs down. I see it. Yeah, I'm watching the NBA playoffs, so that's my pick. Go to NBA.com or ESPN or whichever you're, if you're watching NBA basketball these days, keep following the playoffs and send me a message on Twitter or somewhere during the game, because you'll probably see me tweeting about it anyway. So that's my pick, is NBA playoffs are on.
There's been some hot games. That Boston series has been great.
Yes, I'm hoping one. I think the Bucks, I'm going to throw a hot take. I think the Bucks are going to win in 6, but
That's
I hope
fair.
it goes 7, just so we get the full series, because both teams are. I hope Middleton comes back. I don't think he's going to come back this series, but
it's a big difference
like to
with
see
him
him
out
back.
for sure. I think a interesting thing that I'm noticing, and it's always true for Boston, but home court advantage is back, like fully. The bubble and all that kind of like ruined things a little bit.
The bubble
awesome.
was the equalizer, and now everybody like I said, home court advantage is back, and the crowds are back, which is nice. So looking forward to it.
For sure. Cool. Brittney, your pick's up next.
Yeah, I picked The Great. We just started watching this show, and it is literally great. It's bad puns out of the way. It's about Catherine the Great, and it is based in Russia, obviously, but it is just really, really good, along the lines of maybe The Crown, Bridgerton, just some like comedy in there, romance, politics. It's good.
You know me, I always throw out it's TVMA, folks. Just FYI.
Ah, okay.
Very TV.
I just scrolled down and noticed I probably shouldn't. So.
Yeah, probably should not do that.
No. If it's like Game of Thrones, definitely TVMA.
It's not quite that bad, but there's a lot of language.
Oh, okay. Well, that's decent at least.
Brittney's throwing me a loop here. She picked a different.
I did. You can go to that one and I'll talk about it, but I picked a different pick.
Probably gonna
and
play
changed it out on the fly on him. It may autoplay. Yes, YouTube and the autoplay. Yes, Brady, Fractal in the Svelte Discord does the music, and it's really good. So we just had Svelte Summit Spring last Saturday, and the production value of some of the talks just went up by like 1,000%. It was so good, and you should go back and watch it if you haven't. Especially if you're looking to get into Svelte. There's some beginner talks, some more advanced topics that I need to sit back down and look at because I had no brain power for it on Saturday, but they were really good.
Did you happen to speak at Svelte Summit?
I did happen to speak. It was just a lightning talk. I just announced that I joined Netlify as a developer experience engineer. I'm very excited to be transitioning at Netlify now. And that was my talk. Thank you.
We waited till the end. I should have probably done it in the beginning. Brittney's at Netlify.
Yay!
Hooray!
Cool. My first pick is Moon Knight. Just finished last night. It was unbelievable. At first, I didn't read the books, so I was a little behind on the whole story. This is a mind trip of a show. And like after last night, I had to go research some things and found out more. And like, wow. Like it's a really cool series, and I can't wait to see the rest of it. And
how many episodes is it?
It's only like 6.
Yeah, I think it was 6 total.
Trying to see if it's something I can blaze through.
Yeah,
it is.
Short on time these days.
Like it's a lot.
I didn't know it was a book, so maybe I should read the book before I criticize it. But I felt like part of it was just very over the top. Like the part where he's in his mind and like in the other world.
Whoa, secrets.
I'm not trying to give spoilers. I'm just saying that part of it was very, like a whole episode was a little much.
Yeah, there's a couple.
And the ending was really.
Did you watch post credit? I just want to make sure.
No, I didn't. Did I miss something?
Like, there's the end, then there's the credits, and then there's the.
This is a Marvel thing. I should have known that.
Of course. They always do that. You gotta. They do until the very end.
So that's what blew my mind. Definitely check out that part.
Okay, no more spoilers. Sorry.
So I've been tweeting about this one like crazy. I am attempting. My course like timing has gotten worse and worse because I'm doing so much at Builder right now. But for SV, I call it SVG Gator, which is incorrect. It's like SV Gator or Jader, I think is how they pronounce it.
Oh no!
I thought it was Gator.
I don't think it is. I keep hearing SV Jader on their YouTubes. But anyways. So I'm kind of into this mode of, even though I love development, don't get me wrong, I'm into this whole like no code solution of things because of working at Builder, even though there's a lot of coding involved in it. What you can do is animate SVGs. And so like I dropped in, I thought I had my link up here, but let me show you real quick after I show you SVG. So what you can do is drop all kinds of SVGs in here, and you can actually animate them just by like keyframes and everything else like you normally would do. What comes out of it, and the part that I'm blown away with, you can just do this to raw like CSS animation. And so it's just, boom, you're in. There's no JavaScript overhead or anything. Or you can use the JavaScript version of it, and you can play, stop, restart. So like on hover, you can deal with, and all of that fun stuff, which you can do with CSS too.
That's really awesome.
So this weekend, I kind of started to mess around and finally finished up. I think this will do it. So now on my GitHub profile, I got AJ kind of doing a flip here and like shrinking.
And all those links work?
No.
Oh, I was like, how did you get those links to work?
I probably could actually, but this whole thing's just an SVG. If you click it, it goes out to my Alex Patterson page.
Yeah,
So,
in
yeah.
Markdown doing that doesn't seem like
Markdown
would
takes
work.
all the HTML you want though, which is that's the cool part, right? Yeah, I was blown away by it. It was pretty cool product. I'm still trying to figure out, I think, what I'll end up doing. So the course breakdown right now is all about SVGs, because I'm learning new things that I thought I already knew but didn't. And then we're going to do the kind of breakdown. SVG Gator is going to be, or SVGator. That will be kind of our first.
Please tell us which one it actually is.
I'm going to call it Gator because
it's going to be the Vite fight over again.
Yeah, there you go.
I think if you're English, it's Jader, but I don't know. After we get that one done, though, I want to jump right into like GreenSock and go full blown programming on SVGs, because if you guys didn't catch it, I've got to bring this up because yesterday was May the Force be with you. May the Fourth be with you. Let me see if I can find it quick. I thought I pinned it. I gotta go to Jay's page. So Jay created this lightsaber, and it is freaking mind.
Jay's ridiculous.
Jay is ridiculous.
And I sat down with him. Alex didn't get to be there, but if you haven't seen Jay's work, CodePen, he's now DevRel at Google.
Oh,
he's ridiculous.
Yes.
Why can't I find it? Well, I'll put a link to it. It's really sweet. Like, you can actually drag, and like when you open the lightsaber, it plays the lightsaber sounds and everything. So unbelievable work. Check out Jay's stuff.
I seem to remember Kevin Powell, I know, who was also really good at CSS. Can't remember if he did a video about trying to create a lightsaber effect or not, or something like that. But I seem to recall that from somewhere.
Oh, I found it. This is so cool. Sorry.
It's like I have to show this to the people.
It's amazing. So here's the code pen. If I move some of this code up out of the way.
Oh,
what?
Yeah, and look.
Oh my god.
Wow. And it's got the sound effects and everything.
That's ridiculous.
Isn't that bananas?
CSS wizards, I tell you.
Yeah, so he's got the GSAP side to this floating. So there's a little bit of JavaScript kind of coming into play, but the thing that blew me away, I was like, I think I can do all this in SVG Gator. But the thing that blew me away on is they have this, like, if you watch the top of it, there's actual like motion to it. It might be hard to see, but that's incredible when I started like thinking about how you have to do that. So anyways, nice work, Jay. We'll probably have to have Jay on just to talk about his lightsaber.
There you go. I'm sure he
All
will
right, Brandon.
gladly talk about that.
Sorry,
and you're still doing it in the background.
Brandon, thanks so much for coming on and talk to us about Appwrite, and we'll have to have you back on once you announce this cloud thing soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be glad when it's out, so people can have an easier and even easier way to get on board it. So definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. All right, talk to you soon. Thanks everybody.
Later.